What if I told you that happiness and bliss were the goals of the Christian life? Given the way many Christians live, would you be surprised at that? Or would you say, I want some of that? Happiness and bliss are two meanings of the Greek word for blessed, makarios, that Jesus used in today's gospel. The word derives from another Greek term describing the happiness of the gods, makares. Originally in the Greek language, only the gods were happy, and we humans participated in the bliss of the gods only derivatively. From the earliest times, poets have believed that only God has the real fun. Only the God is happy and the source of human happiness. Christian beliefs about God inherited this opinion. God is not on a permanent downer. Rather, God is bubbling over with joy. So bubbling over, in fact, that humans are caught up in this divine happiness. God is overflowing with delight and desire for creation. And the religious life is one lived out in response to God's delight and desire. We respond by looking outside of ourselves, looking to God and to our neighbor. And there we will be caught up in God's overflowing happiness. All this linguistic freight is still carried in the word makarios when Jesus uses it throughout the Beatitudes. The state of being blessed is, in Jesus' sense, is something that wells up inside us because of the way we engage with those outside us. It wells up inside us, catching us up into God's own delight in us, God's desire for us. The Beatitudes in the gospel today are about the happiness that comes from engaging with others and through them with God. All the conditions that promote happiness have to do with others. The meek live happily alongside others, not becoming unhappy by trying to compete with them. Those who thirst for righteousness seek to make things better for others. The merciful show kindness to those around them, even though they are within their rights not to. Peacemakers resolve conflicts with others. And the pure in heart, they are happy because they see God, who is their heart's one true desire. But those of you hearing this sermon who are still awake will be thinking, hold on a minute. What about blessed are those who mourn, and blessed are those who are persecuted? How can we be happy? How can we experience bliss when we suffer? But these feelings, unhappy as they seem, are shaping us, guiding us outside of ourselves to the loved one we mourn or to the God with whom we suffer persecution. These feelings are shaping us into people who do not live for ourselves alone, but who live in relation to others. These feelings are guiding us outwards where true happiness is to be found. What of blessed are the poor in spirit? What does this mean? The poor in spirit are those who realize that without God, they have nothing at all. Without God's creating us in the first place, not only do we have nothing, we are nothing. To say all this, that the mourners, the persecuted, the poor in spirit, those who have nothing are blessed, makes it clear that Jesus' blessedness isn't some smug sort of happiness. The cries of the innocents in Gaza call out for public mourners. There is great need for those who thirst for righteousness and seek peace in Palestine. The hostages of Hamas and their relatives who fear for their lives are numbered among the persecuted. In Jesus' use of the word happy, one can be blessed and in great suffering at the same time. And that brings us to the saints. The saints are those who show us how the world can be a different place when we love God. Think of what happens when you fall in love. Now, some of you may have forgotten what this is like, especially the married ones. I'm only saying that because my wife is here today. But let me remind you an account of the feeling of being in love from a novel by David James Duncan. Here, a college student called Everett writes home to his brother about his love for Natasha. I dreamed last night that I was watching TV when the broadcast was interrupted and a newscaster came on to say that an entire new continent had just been discovered. A whole flipping continent. It blew my mind, even in my dream. What sounds even stranger, though it seemed normal in the dream, was that the new continent was located inside North America, right between the United States and Canada. It had been there all along, apparently, though no one had ever seen it, and somehow it had finally just appeared. And beautiful though it was, there was plenty of corruption and pollution and crime and havoc and so on. I felt that, problems and all, this land was crying out to be lovingly explored and compassionately lived in. And I planned on setting out to do just that the moment I woke up. But no sooner did I think this than I did wake up. And as I opened my eyes and found Natasha lying up against me, and a new day dawning grey and wet and glorious outside, it dawned on me that my dream was no dream at all. It was perfectly real. That continent was this continent. I am, suddenly living in that gigantic, glorious, wounded place. As the story describes it, in love, we look at the same broken world anew. Even as we watch the news on TV, we find it a place to be lovingly explored and compassionately lived in. But change the name in the story from Natasha to God. Think of someone with that same desire for God that Everett has for Natasha, and you'll be thinking of a saint. The saints are those who see the world afresh because they love the God who created it good. Each day they wake up in a continent that seems new, where they try to bring about God's kingdom on earth. The saints' love for God, their desire for God's justice, help make this world more like God's kingdom. And in doing all this, the saints are our encouragers, our comforters, telling us to join with them in declaring to all creation, taste and see that the Lord is good. Happy, Makarios are they who trust in him. We, like the saints, are called to see the people and things and places around us afresh. Even though in Everett's dream the new continent has plenty of corruption and pollution and crime, it is also a place to be lovingly explored, compassionately lived in. Let us commit ourselves today to tasting and seeing that the Lord is good. Let us be attentive to others and the joy of their existence, even when that existence seems so fragile. We know by experience that we cannot make ourselves happy. We know that happiness, although we all want it, is hard to come by. Yet it only takes a moment to find ourselves laughing or looking at our loved ones or our neighbors and feeling joy. Rather than taking these moments for granted, we need to realize these moments have been given to us. Happiness comes to us as gift. Let us enjoy that gift and give thanks to the giver of all things.